All right, everybody. I am joined here by Barrett Marson of
Marson Media.
Marson Media. Okay, and you are a political consultant?
PR and political consultant, yes, indeed.
All righty. So obviously, we're previewing the State of the Union here this evening. We have plenty of time to talk about this. What do you think we can expect?
Well, if there's one thing that I know that we're going to hear about is how great of a job Donald Trump has done over the last year, basically making America great again.
His slogan.
Yes, he will definitely be talking about a Wall Street that is going gangbusters, 401ks that are looking great, new job announcements all the time, new pay increases or one-time bonuses that companies are giving out thanks to his tax cut that was just approved a month ago. So we're going to see him talk a lot about that. Border apprehensions are down, which means border crossings are down. You know, he's going to talk about his big, beautiful wall, I am sure. So we're going to hear a lot of the great things that he has done or that have been done.
You know, you're speaking about the market, and it has been through the roof. It's been breaking records. We see tons of green when we pull up the Dow Jones Industrial daily here on News Now. But since yesterday, today, it's been down. It's been red. Sure.
You know, but 2 days, I mean, you're talking thousands of points that the Dow has gone up since he has taken over. And there has been an enthusiasm both in the year that he has been president, actually the 14 months since he got elected, and since the tax cuts. You know, I'm not going to say that it's a bubble on Wall Street, but, you know, it can't go up forever and always.
Right.
There has to be some down periods, but you know, 2 days does not a trend make, as we all know. 3 days, according to the New York Times, is a trend.
So we currently have more than 200 people watching us on YouTube. When the president actually comes out for the, is it called a speech? Is it an address?
Yes, it's an address to Congress and the nation, the State of the Union. It's written in the Constitution that they must make a State of the Union.
And is it required to be an hour?
Oh no, there's no, you can make it as short or as long as you want, but we know Donald Trump likes to talk a lot. So I'm sure he will stretch it out to maximize the time in prime time. Okay,
so some of the major topics we're expecting to hear about: immigration. Congress is still working for a fix for Dreamers DACA. What do we think he could possibly touch on or say?
Well, I don't know that he's going to talk a lot about DACA. Again, Democrats are, you know, not happy about this speech in general, so they may not necessarily be there to applaud as Republicans will be. So I suspect when he starts talking about immigration, he'll play much more to the hardliners in his party, in the Republican Party, and talk about border security issues rather than DACA, though I'm sure he will mention it because he knows he's going to have to give something to get the $25 or $18 billion for the border wall.
So this word we keep hearing so often lately, especially because here in just a little over a week, we could possibly have another government shutdown. Bipartisan. Bipartisan. What does President Trump have to do to reach across the aisle and say, look, guys, enough is enough. We need to work together here?
You know, everyone's bipartisanship definition is different. Usually for most people, bipartisan means you agreeing to my proposals. And, you know, that's probably not going to happen. Democrats are going to have to give something on border security, and Republicans are going to have to give something up on DACA. Democrats want a clean DACA bill, and I don't think that's going to happen. And so, you know, we had a government shutdown for several days, short, didn't, you know, most of the weekend, so it didn't impact much. But, you know, in just another week or two, we're going to see another up against the clock.
Right.
And so it'll be up to Trump and Mitch McConnell, Senate President, or Senate Majority Leader rather, and the House Speaker Paul Ryan to get together and, you know, come up with a plan that will appease some Democrats, and, you know, that will do something on the DACA and the Dreamer kids, and give something on border security, including a wall.
So I watch the State of the Union annually, every year, and it's not just because I'm a journalist, but because I'm an American. I like to see what the President of the United States, POTUS, is saying to us as Americans, how we're going to move forward for the year. But I never quite understand. I even had to ask Mike Pace, the other host here at News Now today. I said, I know he's going to address Congress, but where exactly is the State of the Union held?
Well, it's held in the well of the House. In fact, you know, one of my favorite things just to hear is the sergeant at arms announce the president. And it used to be, you know, certainly in the 80s and 90s, a guy with a very deep voice, you know, Mr. Speaker, you know, President of the United States, and the president walks down to all kinds of fanfare. Members of the House and Senate get there extra early so they could sit or stand along the walkway where the president comes down so that they can greet him, obviously usually members of his own party, so that they can get in the photo or get in the lens as he walks down and shakes his hand, points at you, hey, how you doing?
Right.
You know, so they get there hours early so that they can get in that shot.
And is it in the House because it's larger?
Yes.
But I heard there's also like special guests. Some people are invited.
Sure, you know, everyone brings guests along. In fact, I believe Paul Gosar, Congressman Paul Gosar, is bringing our Secretary of State Michelle Reagan as a special guest. But oftentimes, sitting with the First Lady are special guests that the president points to, and I believe that sort of started with Reagan. You know, to make a point about his speech, brings in a real person, sometimes a member of the military, sometimes just a regular taxpayer who now will be able to expand their business, for instance.
Which President Trump does that all the time.
Right, and it's important, you know, as you know in the media, getting real people helps connect to the real world. So as a PR person, I know if I can line up a real person for your reporters, that helps sell a story. So that's what they're doing, is they're selling their proposals in the State of the Union.
So how do people like the Dreamers get in tonight's State of the Union? And about how many are we expecting?
You know, I don't know how many we're expecting, but congressmen and women can, you know, invite whoever they want. They get a guest, and so these congressmen, who, you know, two people sitting down, they can invite anyone they want. And so you'll have some Democrats bring Dreamers. Obviously, we've had sort of an issue today with Paul Gosar saying that he wants Capitol Police to check immigration papers of everyone who comes in, the citizenship of everyone who comes in.
Right. Yeah, because I was looking up some of the special guests today. I was actually working in San Antonio, Texas when the Sutherland Springs mass shooting happened. So I heard the hero in that church shooting situation will be in the crowd, along with other people as well. So it'll be interesting when they do show crowd shots. It'll be interesting to see who's out there.
Well, and when they, you know, he I'm sure that the president will point to each person that's sitting with the First Lady in her area, in her box, if you will, because they're there for a special reason, and it is to point out. So he will make mention of those people sitting next to her, the First Lady.
So of course you see lots of traffic there going by on Capitol Hill, lots of people probably arriving. We normally have pictures of the president when he leaves the White House. We don't have those yet, but we're still about 45 minutes out.
Right, he probably hasn't, you know, he's got no red lights,
right,
got no traffic. You know, he gets to just zip on through. It only takes 5 minutes to get from the White House to the Capitol, so he doesn't have to leave 45 minutes ahead. We would have to leave, you know, get in place 4 hours ahead of time. He just goes right. He walks through all the metal detectors and everything.
So we're talking about immigration, DACA, obviously. There have been some test runs of some border wall prototypes. Do you think he'll be talking about that at all?
Oh, of course he'll be talking. He can't avoid talking about the border wall and how beautiful it will be, and if anyone complains about it, it gets 3 feet taller. So I expect we'll hear a lot about it. I expect we'll even hear a little bit about all the test walls that have been built in San Diego area, Southern California. So I'm sure that he's going to start talking about that, because it's an important thing for him and for the base. You know, his people expect a wall, not a fence, not a virtual wall, as some people have called for with technology and cameras, but a real, live, solid wall.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be interesting to hear his remarks in regards to that. Of course, we know when this wall that the president wants happens, it'll affect California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas.
Absolutely. And, you know, he has acknowledged that we don't need a 2,000-mile long wall, that there's mountains and natural barriers, but a wall will be contentious. We have a lot of fencing here in Arizona, but there's also a lot of areas where it's two strands of barbed wire and old metal posts that will not stop anything. A friend of mine was just showing me a picture that he was out hunting. Took a trip to southern Arizona doing some hunting and whatnot. And he has a picture of himself in Mexico, and the next picture is in America, and he's able to easily get across.
Yeah.
If a hunter can do that pretty easily, a drug smuggler or human smuggler can also do that easily.
Talk about perfect timing. This is pretty much the same week that a lot of Americans, millions of Americans, are going to see that bump in their paychecks. And he's going to be touting that tonight.
That is a key thing for the 2018 elections. Will Americans start to see more money in their paychecks? If yes, Republicans can actually have some hope. If no, if the tax cuts are a bust, if you will, then Republicans will have a hard time in November of 2018. So, so long as our economy is humming, there's a lot of growth, the tax cuts have taken hold and are producing jobs, good paying jobs, and more money in our pockets, Republicans, that is their only shot Republicans have to continue to run Congress.
I have a lot of, especially being in this industry, a lot of friends who say, is this bubble going to burst again? Are we going to reach the ceiling again? They kind of fear, what we had. It wasn't the depression, but the recession that we had years ago because things have been going so well. Is that like a natural fear, you think? Or?
It's always a fear that the good times, first of all, we're not seeing the great times. I mean, this is not the go-go 90s that we're seeing, but we are now seeing some wage growth. We're seeing job growth. We are at near full employment for the first time in a long time, and certainly it started, several years ago, and it's been getting better. It's gotten better under Trump. Again, the stock market is rising. For people's 401ks are getting fat, and that's great. But of course, so many people live paycheck to paycheck, or one bad car accident could put them, on the wrong side of zero.
Right. If there's no emergency fund there or a little bit of cushion. Okay, so we've talked about 401k, we've talked about the market, we've talked about immigration. What other sorts of things might we hear from the president?
Well, I hope that we hear a little bit about his infrastructure plan. In Arizona we have I-11, and we just have freeways that need a lot of work. Expansion, Arizona is a growing town.
Right.
Phoenix is one of the fastest growing cities in the nation, and we've just passed 7 million population. So Arizona will look for some of that talk about infrastructure because we need new freeways. I-11, which is going to be a corridor between Mexico and Canada to move goods and people and services, we're going to need, hopefully we'll get some detail on that, and hopefully we can begin to really go from planning to actual construction in the next couple of years on that.
So I believe I was reporting in Texas when this happened, but didn't we have off of Interstate 10 here in Arizona, wasn't there a bridge that collapsed or something?
Well, we had a bridge that collapsed a couple, 3 years ago, I believe, and it was a small bridge, and I don't know that was, I never read the report as to the cause of that, but we do have, a lot of our bridges are in need of fixing, and so it'll be interesting to see if the president actually puts aside money for infrastructure, things like that. Again, he has often complained about our airports, and our airports aren't the great. Sky Harbor exempted because that is one of the friendliest airports in the nation. But he complains often about LaGuardia and JFK, and those are the hubs for all kinds of international travel.
Absolutely.
Whenever Phoenicians want to go to Europe, we often go through JFK or LaGuardia.
Yes, have to connect there on the East Coast.
Yes. So those airports absolutely need improvement. I mean, it was LaGuardia just had, maybe it was JFK, just had a flood in part of the terminal that stranded thousands of people. So it's hopefully time that we start that. But is there going to be money for that, or is it just going to be some tax incentives? Is it going to be tax cuts for these kinds of businesses that will be the supplier of this? Will we have public-private partnerships like toll roads? So I think we all need to see the details of his infrastructure plan. Hopefully he'll talk about that tonight.
But also, along with that, they're very important discussions, of course. We need to improve our infrastructure, but at the same time, it's like nobody likes construction, or nobody likes the major airport that they go through, having terminals blocked off or having cones or having tape, so how do we continue to grow? And we keep touting this economy, and President Trump himself is saying, hey, America's open for business. He was just at the World Economic Forum.
I like to give this story, that in the city of Surprise, you had ADOT build a bridge over Grand Avenue. Grand Avenue, craziest streets in America, if you ask me, but it was always a difficult thing to traverse. they decided to build an overpass over Grand Avenue at Bell Road. And that created all kinds of traffic headaches for good 8, 9, 10 months. But now you go over it and it's great. And for the next 3 generations, 4 generations, that is going to be a great thing to have on your daily commute. So yes, there's always some pain when you start closing freeways and whatnot, but eventually it's going to be all worth that pain.
Being in public relations, do you have any clue, any sort of numbers as to how many Americans, not just Americans, how many people worldwide will be tuning into this State of the Union?
You know, I have not seen I don't remember previous accounts, but it is absolutely a highly watched event. People on the networks, people on CNN and Fox News, and people on their phones. You know, they watch. Yeah, they still watch it. They will watch it on their phones. They will watch it on their. If they still have cable, they'll watch it on there. So it is well watched event that few political events still capture.
Right.
So.
And here on News Now, we have a worldwide audience, by the way. I don't know if you know our reach. We have people in the UK watching, in Germany, in Poland, in Switzerland, everywhere. So we certainly appreciate if you're in one of those countries on the other side of the world there and you're staying up late with us here at News Now to watch this. Any final thoughts or just...
No, you know, I'm excited about this. This is technically his first State of the Union. So I'm excited to hear his vision, see if he can lay it out. He's when he's on teleprompter, if he stays on teleprompter, he's a very good speech maker.
Yes.
It's a question of does he stay or does he drift off a little bit.
Right. Okay, well, we'll have
thanks
it live
in
39 minutes, actually almost 38 minutes. We're getting very close. So thanks, Barrett, Marson, for being here with us. We certainly appreciate it. And don't you go anywhere here on News Now. I'm going to be sticking with you this evening, and I'm going to have some national packages to show you here.